G'day and welcome back to part 2 of this Philco Model 680 radio from New Zealand. This is my radio. It belongs to a lady that contacted the radio club. Last week I tried it out and it did work.
Severe effects on...
I cleaned the chassis up, I removed the tuning capacitor and cleaned it in the ultrasonic machine. I replaced all the dial strings and it's all back together. The last time I signed off I was just about to change the capacitors. I thought I'll do it between episodes so I don't have to bore you with capacitor changes. I've done a lot of it and I've done the filters. I'll just show you what I'm up to. I've replaced the two filter capacitors and I've put them next to the transformer here. They were over here and they're mounted on top of the chassis. I was going to mount them here on the bottom and I thought, no, it's too close to the RF. It hasn't got the chassis there for protection or RF protection, so I put them over here away from all that gear over there. I've been checking resistors as I go along and they're all high, of course. This area here has resistors for the center tap. What I thought I would do while these capacitors were out of circuit is I'd measure from one end of the resistor chain to the end, and it should have given me a total resistance for the three of them. Here's the secondary for the power transformer, the center tap there. It's going to those three resistors. This was disconnected, that's the field coil. I just pulled the plug out for the speaker and I had disconnected this capacitor here. So what I intended to do was measure from here to here and it should give me the total resistance of those three resistors. I check them all in one shot. That's half a meg, that's 150k and that's 15k. So that's 565k total. When I measured it from here to here, it came up at about 13 meg, I think. So there was something wrong, and what I found was this resistor here had actually broken off, wasn't connected at all. This is the resistor that wasn't making any contact, and it had just snapped off at the end where it had been soldered on. So I've replaced this one here and this one here. This is the original, still in the set. Here's the three resistors. There's one there, and this one is the original. So I've replaced all those. These two guys here feed the negative voltage to the grid of the two push-pull output valves. So I made sure they were the same value. We get a nice even voltage on both valves so we don't get distortion. There was a capacitor in here as well, and I replaced it with these two yellow ones. This is the capacitor that I've replaced with the yellow one. It's 0.006 microfarad, and it's one of these molded paper capacitors. I think that's what they are. I need to remove them. There's a few more in the set, but that's snapped off this end, and this end here had never been soldered in. It was through a hole and just sitting there curled up, so that had never been in. Well, it was probably making contact, but yeah, it had never been soldered. So I replaced that one, but there's still at least 1, 2, 3, 4 that I've got to replace. So I'll replace those and I'll come back and we'll do a test and see how close they are to their original value. I've replaced the capacitors. There's one here, 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 here. That was the 4 of them. That one I did previously. Here are the 4 capacitors that I removed. These are both 50,000 picofarad and the brand name is Toby. These two here are made by Marko. They have a numbering system on, or they use colors for numbering, and there's a little arrow there to show you which way to read it. So you start here. The first one is just the naming or standard that it uses. The second one is where you start, so that's green, black and orange. So that's 5, 0 and 3 more zeros, so that's 50,000 as well. This one here is blue, black and red. Blue 6, 0 and 2 more, so that's 6,000. You've got to divide by 1,000,000, so the 50,000 is 0.05, and this one will be 0.006 microfarad. Now these aren't mica capacitors, I think they're paper capacitors. I'm not sure why they've used two types of 50. That's the same value as that, but it's a different brand and different size. But I think they're paper capacitors and they're in a Bakelite case. I'll test the 50,000 picofarad ones. That's 0.05. And it's 0.098, so no good. I don't expect any of these will be any good. And 0.083 for that one. Looking for 0.05. And 0.118 for that one. Now this one here is 0.06. No, sorry, it's 0.006. And it's come at 0.01, so none of those are any good, and as I said, I think they're paper, so they really need to go anyway. Our thing to do now is turn it over, or test it and make sure I haven't broken anything. I've set everything up. I'll power it up. It's on dim bulb there. The bulb looks normal. And the wattage looks normal. Should have warmed up. I'll turn it up. Yeah, something there.
Again, that's all in their camp. All we can focus on and control is what we can, and our energy and effort, and I think that hopefully
it is working. Sounds pretty awful. I'll put it on full power. It should be okay.
Program right across the country on ABC Sport. Now, Mitchie, we had the NBA in town. We had them in Melbourne. The New Orleans Pelicans taking on the Melbourne United, and also Southeast Melbourne.
So the tone's working.
Thank you.
Go straight to Jeffrey.
The other two, State of America and Hutchinson, the early stages. So Vega Magnifico in front. Full brace knock with pop.
There's the racing station.
Castilla's going to race.
Plenty of volume there.
Rousing God's window.
Turn that over. That's shortwave 1. We're not going to get anything, but it appears to be working. There's 2. Let's put on 31 meters. Yeah, it's all making noises, so they're probably working, but won't get anything at this time of day.
He's got the Adelaide 36s cooking tonight on ABC South.
So, I need to do a bit of an alignment. I'm not going to align the whole thing. This is a repair. I'm not going to go into the whole detail. There is so much to align on this, it'd just get too long. On the tuning capacitor, we've got 2 trimmers and there's nothing there. They will run in a line, so there's the RF, that's probably the antenna, and that's probably the oscillator. If I put my finger there and turn the volume up, I should be able to detune it and then tune it back. There it is. Okay, so that's the oscillator, that'll be the RF, that'll be the antenna, that will be the oscillator. Now there's no trimmer cap there, it must be somewhere else on the set. I'll have to find out where that is. I've got the alignment table here. There's 455 for the IFs. I will do a quick check on those. The one that I need, because I adjusted those 2 trimmers on top of the capacitor. In fact, I took them off to put it in the ultrasonic machine. So I need to just reset those ones. And that'll be at there 1400 with going in the antenna. And we do 5, 6 and 7. Here's a little mud map of the radio. That's the 2 trimmers we just looked at. So that's 6 and 7. And 5 is, oh, down here. There it is. So that's the trimmer for the oscillator. That's the antenna, and that'll be the RF stage. So once we've done those, that'll do the 1400. Then we've got to go down to 600, and we've got to do the bottom of the oscillator. There appears to be only one adjustment, and that'll be the oscillator itself. And you need to roll the gang, which means you've got to rock it and peak the oscillator to match the antenna. So I'll set it up. We'll do these 2 adjustments. I will check that. I probably won't even film that because it's, look, we've done it 100 times. So yeah, I'll leave that out. We'll just do these 2. I have the set powered on, and I've got the generator on 1400 over there. Down the bottom here, I've connected the generator into the antenna, and I'm using a 200 picofarad capacitor there. I've also got the dial pointing to 1400. I don't like doing it this way. I always do the bottom first, not the top. Seems a bit weird doing the top then adjusting the bottom, and then you're going to come back and do the top again. Anyway, I'll do what they're saying. We just hear it there. It's not on the 1400. Yeah, so there it is there. Now they said number 5 here, so we'll adjust this one here. Turn the volume down a little. Alright, that's good. Alright, I'll peak these 2 as well. Using a metal screwdriver, it shouldn't make any difference. This is the RF adjustment. That's it there, and the antenna. Okay, that's it. I'll head down to 600 and we'll adjust that the 600 mark. Alright, just coming down to it now. Where is it? There it is. So that's 600 over there. Just trying to work out where the mark is, because there's an orange mark there which you would think is 600, but the text is a little bit above it. I guess it's in line with the bottom of it. Anyway, I'll line it up with the orange. The adjustment at 600 is number 8, and that's right at the bottom of the chatty there. Alright, here's number 8 here, so I'll adjust that. Look, it's right on. I'll just adjust away a little bit, see if I can peak it. No. Go the other way. No. I'll put it back on 600. And I'll peak it again. So that's rocking. I'm really rushing through this. So I'll just peak that. So that should be it. Well, that'll do. I didn't change that. If I change that at all, it's not by much. So the 1400 area is going to be fine. I don't need to go back and check that. So really, that's as far as I need to go with this alignment. As I said, I will just check the IFs quickly, but I'll do that off camera. I think we go and have a look at the case, see what can be done there. I have the case out in my shed now. We looked at it in part 1. The finish is a bit crazed. There are some scuff marks on it, but I can probably cover those up a little bit. To refinish it would be nice, but it would cost way more than the radio's worth. So just a simple clean up, and I'll probably put some of that Howard Restorer finish on it. That seems to bring it up pretty well. Before I do anything, I'll need to remove this grill cloth. The cloth and the backboard are just held in with some screws. I'll take them out and then I can set it aside. Maybe I'll try and clean it a bit. As I've shown in the last few radios where I've just reconditioned the case, not actually refinished it, I'll use a scourer, and I've got some wax and grease remover here, which is basically shallow, and I'll just clean it all up with that. I can feel the grit that's coming off that finish there. I hope it's not too far gone. So I've just got a bit of shellite on a rag. I'll just wash that off. The finish has degraded a bit more than I'd hoped. I'll see what the Restorer finish looks like before I go too far. This is the Howard Restorer finish I'm going to use. I've been pretty impressed with it on the last few radios. I'll just see if it's actually going to bring it back or not. And it's really not going to cover some of the damage that's up there. It looks pretty good in most areas, but there's areas here where really the finish is almost gone. I wonder what I can do. I have some walnut stain here. I'm just trying to recolour the top just to cover it up. The rest of the radio is okay. It's just the top that's been subjected to sun and whatever else. So that looks pretty good actually. That's covered it fairly well. I might give it another coat once it's dried, and when it's really dry I'll put some Howard on it and see if that works. I've let that dry for a couple of hours now, so it should be hard, and I'll just put some Restorer finish over that and we'll see what that looks like. And how that's going on now is how it'll look once it's dry and we've got some polish over it. And it looks pretty good. That actually looks remarkably good. I'll let that dry. It'll dull off, of course, but the Canaba polish on the top will bring it back and give it a nice hard surface. But so far, it's looking pretty good. I was happy with the way the top had turned out, so I've done the rest of the radio. I've run the scourer over it, cleaned it up, and put some stain on it, and then put the Restorer finish on it. So I was going to put the Restorer finish wax, which is a Canaba wax, orange oil, and beeswax. And then I thought, why don't I use that Polytrol gel coat that I've been using on the Bakelite radios lately? This is designed for boats and boat decking, so this should work really well. I've got a bit on a rag here. Let's put that on. Well, looks good so far. I've applied it all over the top. I'll just make sure it's, you know, applied evenly. And that looks pretty good. That looks very, very good. I'll do the rest of the radiator. I'll come back once it's dried. While that polytrol sets, I thought I'll make a new knob. In part one I showed the radio's front and it had an odd knob on it, so I tried to get a new one, but I was unsuccessful, so I'll try and reproduce this one. So I've invested in some silicon mold mix. I've got a vacuum chamber here and a vacuum machine and some scales, and I'm going to make a silicon mold up, get an impression of this knob, and then hopefully reproduce it with some plastic mix I have. I've zeroed the scales there. I'll just put an amount in here. I don't really know how much to put in. Oh, it's thicker than I thought it would be. Maybe I'll shoot for, say, 20 or something. There you go. And add the second part. So I'll shoot for 40 now. This is way thicker than I thought it would be. Lovely. Now it says I've got to stir it for about 5 minutes. So I can see why it'll take that long. Yeah, okay. So it may take a little while to mix together. So I'll stand here for 5 minutes, mixing it together. And as you can see, I'm adding air to the mix at the same time, so I need to get that air out. I've mixed that for a good 5 minutes, and it's got lots of little bubbles in it, we can see it. So I'll put it in the chamber. Not actually sure what's going to happen here. Put the lid on, put the tube in, and I'll push start. I expected that to sort of bubble and erupt, but it didn't really. But I can't see any more bubbles on the top, so I guess that's all I have to do. Just let the air out. I have the knob mounted in my drill stand here. I'm just putting on some release agent. It's just isopropyl alcohol and some drops of dishwashing liquid. I've also put a little plate there, so that'll center the container. And I'll put a mark there. So that's the front. Now I'll just lower this in until it gets to the right depth. And I'll lock the drill there. The directions say it takes about 2 hours for the silicon to set, then I can remove the knob and we should have a mould to make a new knob, I hope. Alright, that's been sitting there for about 3 hours. Wow, that's very solid. Okay, I'll remove that. I'll unlock the drill and lift it out. I'm not sure what's going to happen here. I'm going to let go. Okay. Ooh. Doesn't look bad. It has got little bubbles in there. Unfortunately, it has little bubbles still there, so I should have vacuumed and perhaps left it under vacuum for a little while. You've only got sort of a pot life of 20 minutes, so spent 5 minutes stirring it. I have some smooth cast here I was going to use to make a new plastic knob, but it's gone off. It's a bit old, it's a bit lumpy. I'll have to order some new stuff. While that's coming, I'll redo this and I'll put it in the vacuum chamber for 10 minutes or something to make sure all the bubbles come out. So I'll do all that, get some of this new smooth cast or something similar. I'll come back and be ready to cast the new knob. Right, I'm back. I made another mold and it's perfect. I put it in the vacuum and it bubbled up like mad. So the last time maybe it wasn't sealed properly or something. I really don't know. Anyway, that's come out very nice. I've got some other resins here now. I just went down to the local hardware, which is Bunnings if you're in Australia, and they sell this stuff here. This is clear. The one I wanted to use was white, but this will be all right. They do warn you to use volume when you mix it, not the weight, like I did with the silicon. I put 17mm in the other container, and we should be able to see it. I think that's it. Alright, I'll put the two mixtures into the big container And once again, I've got to stir them for about 5 minutes. It says 3 to 5 minutes. Alright, leave me to stir this for about 5 minutes. I've finished stirring it. It's in the canister again, so I push the button. Now, once again, there's no bubbles coming out, although I can't see any in there. So this may not be as bad as the silicone rubber. I have the mould in there, it's lined up. I haven't turned the chuck at all, so it should be exactly the way it was originally, as far as the orientation goes. Let's put that in there. I'll let that set. It takes a couple of hours. You actually got to wait about 24 hours before it goes off, which is a bit disappointing. Anyway, we'll come back in 24 hours and see what it looks like. I'm going to remove the knob from the mould. It hasn't been quite 24 hours, but it's pretty hard. What was left in the pot is very hard. So let's see if it'll come out. Oh, it's starting to come. I think it's coming out of the shaft. There we go. Now the shaft was the bit I was worried about, so that's come out all right. Wow, I've been working this for a minute or so. There we go. It's absolutely perfect. Look at that. The lines in it. Wow. Now, I've got a bit of cardboard stuck in there. It has a little spring to hold the shaft on. The cardboard will come out. I'll probably have to dig it out, I think. Anyway, the finish is fantastic. Yeah, that is fantastic. All right. So I'm going to paint this. In fact, I'll paint all the knobs so they do match. Yeah. I've skipped ahead a bit. I've already painted this knob. This is the one I made. This is an original here, and they look very similar. There's not a lot of difference in them. In fact, on the radio, I don't think I'd pick the one from the other. To paint the knob, I rubbed it down with a bit of 600 wet and dry to roughen it up a bit. I've put some plastic primer on it. And I had some brown paint that I colour matched to an STC radio about 5 years ago, so that was a pretty good match. That's the paint I've used. Well, we're back on the case again. There's a few things to finish off. The finish that I've put on it's been hardening off for a few days. I actually put some Carnauba oil on the top, or Carnauba wax, and that's given it a nice hard shell, if you like. It looks all right. It's not 100% by any means. It would have looked much better if I'd done it properly, but, for $50 or something, that's not too bad. The cleats from here have fallen off. There's a couple up the front there that have fallen off as well, so I've cut some new ones. I'll clean out the old glue and I'll glue the new ones in. I've cleaned up where the old cleats were, so a bit of adhesive and just glue them in like that. I'll clean off that excess adhesive, but that'll be about it for the case. I'll just give it a bit more of a clean up. I might try and paint those if I can, and then we'll go inside and put it all together. I've struck a bit of a problem. I was going to put this in the case, and I, as always, did a test before I put it back in, make sure it was still going, and it doesn't work. The set's powered, and I'll just tune up and down, and there should be a station where that is there, and there's nothing. So you get the staticky noises, but it won't tune. And if I scrape the aerial wire, the scratching comes through the speaker. So the system itself is okay. The circuit is okay. Everything's getting through. It can't tune. That's pretty indicative of the oscillator not working. And what I found was this oscillator coil here is open circuit. This is the BC, or the normal broadcast band oscillator coil. It's not any of the shortwave ones. And this has an open circuit. The coil has 3 tappings. There's one here, there's one there, and there's one underneath here. This trimmer here is trimmer number 8. This trimmer here is trimmer number 5. Here's the subject oscillator coil here, tapping on the top, one right at the center there, and one on the bottom. There's trimmer 5, and there's trimmer 8. So there should be continuity between here and here. So if I measure from the top of 8 to the top of 5, which is effectively here, I should get continuity. So there's trimmer 8 and there's trimmer 5, and if I put it there and there, it's open circuit. If I buzz out from 8 to the coil end here, that should have continuity. Once again, there's 8, and this one here is the bottom of the coil, and it does have continuity there. So that part of the coil's okay, and that's that part there. So there's a break between here and here. Yesterday I removed this capacitor and tested it, and it turned out it was okay. So I put it back in. So maybe I've damaged it here. I only soldered it in the middle there. I didn't sort of solder, I kept away from here. But yeah, I may have damaged it somehow. I'll take this coil out and we'll do a visual inspection. Here's the coil, and that's the way it was sitting in the radio. The capacitor I was playing with was down here, and if I turn this around, you can see there's some damage there. There's the damage there, and I can see a wire broken off there. So when I've worked on that capacitor, the solder's melted and pushed the wire back into it or something. I'm not sure. Anyway, I'll clean it all up and I'll try and reconnect the wires. I'll melt some of the wax off so I can see what's going on. I have it under my electronic microscope, and there's the break there. Now the wire, it's only got a couple of wraps in from the end, so I think I can unwrap it. I cut the wire just after the lug and I'm unwinding it. I'm counting the turns as I go. So that's the remaining bit on the coil. I need to clean that up and I can attach a new bit of wire to it. Here's the wire here from the rest of the coil, so I should have continuity between here and here. So I've bared it off a bit. I'll put my finger on there. There it is. So we're good from here up to here. All I need to do is put a little joint on there, get some similar wire, wrap it around 3 times and join it back onto the lug. I'll do that. We'll come back and check it again. Alright, there's the repair. There's the join there. I'll insulate all this afterwards, make sure it works first. So we should have, I think it came out about 7 or something, didn't it? There it is, nearly 8 ohms. Right, that's fixed. I'll insulate all this, I'll put it all back together, and we'll give it a quick test before I put it back in the case. It's all back together. I'll put some power on. I'll just wait till it warms up. I'm extremely confident that it will work. There it is.
920-222. Kylie, hello to you from Daysdale. 2 things which spring to mind are 1, the roses at Flemington, and 2, the fashion. Thanks. 0467-920-222 for a first thought. When I say spring racing, what's your first thought that comes? Yeah, well, mate, what do you like the bright for there?
So we've got sport today.
Hello, Natasha. Hello, and Nick Bryant. You mentioned this has only been fiction so far. I mean, Nick, you're...
It's working again. I'll have to redo the alignment now, but it's only the broadcast band needs to be done. So I'll do all that again and I'll put it in the case. I'll come back when it's all done. There's the radio. It's all done. It's all back together and it's working. I do have it plugged in at the moment and it is running. In part 1 I pointed out that there should have been a shield on this 7B6 detector valve. I couldn't find anything ready made, so I rolled up some aluminium sheet. So I've used that and that's sorted that. Here's the knob that I made. It's not an exact match for the other colour wise anyway. I could have painted them all to look the same, but I really didn't want to do that because the paint may come off. So I just left that as it is. It's not all that noticeable. You'll notice I've made little clear sheets with the names of the knobs or the controls. There's the old ones, and they're a bit, well, I couldn't use those, they're just yellow and awful. So I've cut those with my vinyl cutter. The vinyl cutter cuts the plastic okay, and of course I just cut out the text and glued it on the back. I think the cabinet looks pretty good. It was a good way of just refreshing it and not wasting days and days or a week of refinishing, and the cost involved would have run into hundreds of dollars. So I think that's a fairly good compromise. I don't think the radio is worth more than a couple $100 if you were lucky. So spending $400 or $500 getting the case refinished would have been a complete waste of money. I'll turn it up and we'll tune a couple of stations.
The Gold has a new female champion too, with 24-year-old.
So it sounds good. Bit of interference today. It's the middle of the day.
Doesn't have time, so that was the remit. You got to get going straight away. Look,
yeah, so it'll work much better at night time, of course.
You know, I loved her. It wasn't like her first time eating Vegemite. No, but she's like...
That's a weak station.
$2.10 and $1. One bonk at 40, and we stand by for the champion at the 7.
Yeah, so there it is. I'll contact the owner. She can come and pick it up. I think she'll be happy with it. I didn't go overboard with it. I didn't want to put a lot of money into it. As I said, it's not going to be worth all that much anyway. I hope you enjoyed what we did this week and in part 1. It's been an interesting little project. I haven't seen a radio or anything like this before, so it was interesting for me. I've learned a few things as well. So I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you can join me for my next radio adventure.